The National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control recently enforced the closure of the popular Idumota drugs market on Lagos Island and another one in Onitsha, Anambra State, following what it calls a routine check exercise. The closure of both markets has been raising a lot of concern in the face of the skyrocketing costs of prescription drugs in the pharmacies since the agency took that action. Concerned stakeholders are asking if there could have been better alternatives or ways of sanitizing the drug retail business in Nigeria without adding more pain to the plight of millions of citizens who are already grappling with the damning realities of an economy in distress. Joining us now to look at possible alternatives for NAFDAC to explore this is public interest lawyer Matthias Emeribe. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Now, first of all, there are some complaints that prices of drugs are skyrocketing after the closures of Idumota drugs market and the market in Onitsha. However, the NAFDAC DG has been talking about fake drugs and the crisis across Nigeria of people, dying from fake drugs and counterfeit medicine. Do you believe that this solution is temporary pain for future benefits, if it's a necessary pain to ensure that we're able to get these counterfeit drugs off the market?
Thank you very much. If going by what the intro, the ultimate question for me is, what is the blueprint that NAFDAC itself has provided as an alternative? The closure of the market, naturally, would it bring about the stoppage of fake drugs? Or are you closing the market simply because you don't want drugs at all to be sold? I don't think, for all intents and purposes, the essence of a regulatory body will mean to practically, because of one or two persons who have decided to go the other way, you use one brush to do what? Brush everybody that you are all dealing in fake drugs. I think we must go back and look at what does regulatory body do? What are their duties? What are they supposed to do? Now, while I agree that yes, if you have NAFDAC duty is to make sure that yes, you regulate or better still monitor and enforce rules pertaining to that industry so that you have best practices and have the best for the interest of the public. But to go on a total shutdown of the entire market, ignoring the cost implication of drugs, especially for those who are genuinely inclined in production of drugs or selling same, you ignore the cost to the consuming public per se, those that will be seriously affected, because it is about life itself. I think for all intents and purposes, there should be a rethink. And for me, I want to go back and ask, for these people in question who are in this market or in this industry, have NAFDAC themselves gone to find out what is their pain? In other words, how have they been coping? Because if we keep on talking about fake drugs, we know that yes, you cannot wish away the issue of bad eggs in any system. It's not possible that you completely take them off. But you can control and make sure that at the end of the day, you have the best for the system. We knew what people like Dora, during the time they came, how they acted during their own period.
But she also closed some markets during that time.
Yes, it did. But the question is that, has it, in all this while, being that is an example, solved the problem? If the answer is in the negative, it means that there must be what you call, you go back to the drawing board and ask yourself, what do we do to make it better? So that we won't continue to have, because closure has never solved the problem. Just like somebody will tell you that it's like you repeat the same, that's nothing but what? With all due respect, madness. Because that's the only thing you say. But so if you come up with a position, let that position be one that will be lasting.
What do you think NAFDAC should do, given the fact that, because there are two things here, clearly. Yeah. NAFDAC is saying that because you say it's about life. Yeah. But the the menace of fake drugs and counterfeit medicine. It's also about life.
Yeah.
Many people are dying. We are told that it's about 500,000 annually in sub-Saharan Africa, with Nigeria accounting for a good chunk of that. So NAFDAC is not just saying we want to close shops. They are even advocating for capital punishment.
Yeah.
We read recently a BBC report identifying a certain Indian pharmaceutical company as being one of the companies responsible for this incidence of fake drugs. So we can't say in all fairness that NAFDAC is not doing anything. Maybe they're not doing enough. So I'm asking, what would you rather have NAFDAC do than close shops?
Now, let's look at, like you rightly gave, that yes, they've been able to trace maybe the issue of fake or counterfeit drugs to maybe one of these companies in India or whatever. Now, I keep asking that if you have been able to do this, it means that there are people who are concerned or who have been collaborating with these people.
Yes.
What have you done in checkmating these same people? Because you won't tell me that only one Indian company is the one that is supplying the entire fake drugs.
No, of course.
Or the entire drugs that you have in in Nigeria or sub-Saharan Africa. So it can only be in respect of one or two persons. So you can't, because of one or two persons, you do what? Just like what I told you, you have that brush and use it to what? Say that is what happens. That's one. Secondly is that, let's go back. What is the mode of registration of drugs in relation to most of these people? Because sometimes it's easy for us to stay here and make it and say, that because there are fake drugs and so on and so forth, I have my power. The best way to deal with it, I clamp down the whole thing, close it down. But you have ignored the fundamentals. And what are these fundamentals? Because if you are made a regulatory body, the essence of you be regulating is because you want to sanitize the industry, not only for those who are there, the stakeholders, but also for the public at large, who are the consumers. Because like you have is, there are many prescriptive drugs. If you don't have them, many people will die because they don't have them.
So what are the fundamentals?
So the point is that, look at one, the registration of some of these drugs. They come because when you are talking of registering some of these drugs, they want to know the company that produces these drugs. They don't want to inspect the company in question, that is, inspect the industry to know whether it's hygienic and what they are producing is in order. Now, how much is it that those who are in Nigeria here are charged for purpose of getting them? For how long will those drugs be? Do they give them enough time to recoup from what they have imported? In other words, from the payment they have made before now, and before they say it has expired? And if it does expire, what is the feedback in terms of the government policy as to how do you come? Because it's like the India you are talking about, America, they have what you call a system where they encourage even those whose drug, because when your drug expires, it becomes fake by implication. So those whose drug expire, they have a system where they say, okay, this thing, take it back to government. Government on their own have an incentive that they give to you to encourage them so that nobody will be keeping fake drugs or expired drugs. Do they have all these things on ground? Yeah. Second, thirdly, do they have, like, if you want to monitor or make sure that things don't happen that way, naturally you build what you call a city or a center or a hub, a drug hub, where there will be information, where all these bodies will be there to monitor what is being produced and so on and so forth. The question is that, what encouragement is the regulatory body giving to these people so that they can collaborate with government to come up with this? If these things are not there, you are putting it, you are saying to your tent, oh Israel, whichever way you want to survive, survive.
Sorry. Actually, you had a question.
Yes, I mean, it's widely acknowledged that counterfeit and substandard drugs remain a major public issue in this country. Now, the issues go beyond just the markets that are being closed, like you've rightfully mentioned. You've also touched on a drug regulation system that would help us that will make us accountable. But the issues goes beyond that. We're looking at porous borders as well, inadequate regulatory oversight. oversight, a weak enforcement system as well, which also ties back to what the DG of NAFDAC said, calling for capital punishment, even though that conversation about the death penalty is something that is still up for debate and conversation. Now, when we look at the structural reforms, legislative reforms, standard reforms that need to be done, as a public lawyer yourself, is Nigeria's legal framework for pharmaceutical regulation strong enough, or do we still need more reforms and that collaboration between NAFDAC, between the government and even private entities to be able to make sure that we're curbing these problems in all the different aspects and not just one?
I think we have. You mentioned the issue of porous borders. When people talk of porous borders, who should the blame go to? I mean, it's like we are just abdicating from our responsibility. We know those who are... I mean, you said you have power. You are not exhibiting your power immediately on those who are helping you to do what? To meet the public. In other words, because these people are vulnerable, you feel that they are the first target and you want to deal with them. Meanwhile, the so-called porous borders, where you have power to do what? Checkmate. You are not doing anything about it. Who is causing that? So we are saying...
Our borders, no?
You said what?
Is NAFDAC in charge of our borders?
NAFDAC, look, most drugs that are coming, some of these things, if you...
She
before
has
you
spoken about collaboration with
the
customs service.
So it's a regulatory body, it's an agency, it's an institution of government. So with due respect, we cannot begin to shift our responsibility to somebody or give it to us. Look, even if you go to the airport, you go to the seaport and so on. So these things are there so that they'll be sure that what is coming in is what they themselves have approved. Because like these companies you mentioned that you say in India or whatever, NAFDAC also, this payment that they make here, these people that are producing these drugs, they equally visit those companies to be sure that they have the necessary facility to produce the drug so that we won't begin to talk about fake drugs and so on and so forth.
But Mr. Emeribe, do you think that the punishment, what the law, prescribe, do you think that it is enough? I think it's about 5 years.
5 years.
5 years. Do you think, because all we've been saying, we are not putting responsibility on those who are, either producing or importing fake drugs into the country?
Let's ask ourselves, the one we have on ground, to what extent have they been able to pursue it? Or to carry it or enforce it, talking about the government itself. Because when you talk about making the punishment more punitive,
yes,
as it were.
For those who are killing people with fake drugs, counterfeit medicine.
That's what I'm saying, that when we begin to talk about making it more punitive,
yes,
you must first ask yourself, the one that I have, because there's an adage that says we'll begin from the known before you get to the unknown. The one that we have, to what extent have they been able to do it, to carry it out? Because if you don't carry those ones out, how much, if you say you are making it punitive, are you sure? Because if you make it punitive, you are even making those other people more emboldened. I'll give you an example. It's like this issue of maybe tramadol. Let me use as an example. Before it was all over. The moment government came out and said, ban, it's like people now saw that this and so there's something in this place. And it's boom, just like that.
So
what I'm trying to say is that before you come up with any position, whether punishment or whatever, you must think it out. Yes, you must give it a very serious reason and think of what will be the consequence or the boomeranging effect if after doing this, is it going to go? Because some of these things, like, there's no test to say, okay, let me test this in and see how it will work before I now bring it into full implementation. They don't do all those things.
Yes, sir. Now you're a lawyer.
Yes, please.
Yes, and in the law, every crime has a punishment in the law, right? Anything that's legally is a crime has a defined punishment in the law.
Yes.
Now, what Steve is asking now is that if we make these punitive measures stronger, can that dissuade bad actors? Because sorry, I haven't finished. Because earlier you did say that that we're not incentivizing those who are producing drugs, but we're trying to disincentivize those who are counterfeiting drugs. It's a completely different thing. So do you believe, if you don't believe that stronger punishment will disincentivize bad actors, then what do you believe the solution is?
Listen, if you make, hanging or firing squad, or, you know, as the punishment, that's the capital punishment for murder. It's really those armed robbery and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Nothing stops because, I mean, for those who are into fake drugs, who produce drugs that are killing, obviously they are even worse off.
Yes.
So you can as well come up with those laws. But I'm saying that even if you come up with those things, and you yourself have not created an environment that should also disassociate, in other words, remove the interest, making them not to be interested in going to that area. Because if you create an environment that rewards good behavior, the tendency for bad behavior will be reduced, because those good behaviors, people who are into those good behavior and that are getting reward, will be among those who will come, collaborate and say, we don't want these people. They will join you in fighting them. But a situation where your law is not only, it doesn't encourage good behavior, your law even punishes good behavior. And you now think that when you come out a more punitive law, those people that you are punishing will now want to join, will join you. I mean, they must call the speed.
Punish good behavior. The law is trying to protect those who
That
are
is
the
the
good ones.
presumption. That is the presumption. That is the presumption, which, like I said, may be rebutted in view of what we have on ground. What do we have on ground? Those are the questions. If you don't have the mechanism, if you have not created the enabling environment that will make good behavior thrive, you open the environment for bad behavior to thrive.
All right. Mr. Matthias Emeribe, we want to thank you for joining us on the morning show today.